Hi, welcome. Good morning. Good Sunday. How are you today? If you notice, there's quite a light show going on here in our office this morning. It is beautiful. I've taken some pictures. We've got an orb up in. Okay, I'm not used to there. There you go. We have orb up behind us. There's my fingers kind of sticking in it. And then we have this beautiful array of color coming through the window this morning. And I just look at it as an amazing Sunday blessing on this wonderful new year. The seasonal calendar has ended. That's what Samhain was all about. And now we are embracing a brand new year on the witches calendar. And our next major Sabbath will be Yule, which will be the bringing and the returning of the sun. So we're excited about that, and we're going to be doing ritual here. And so anyways, I just wanted to share all that with you. We've got some exciting things going on here at All Spiritual Life Center, and we're grateful that you're a part of it and that you join us here this week. We're in contemplation of taking action out into the community, and I would like to put a shout out to Brittany and Mo Lane. Brittany, I can't pronounce your last name, baby girl. I love you with all my heart, but I never can get your last name right. But you know who you are. And we're in the middle of a direction that can serve even more. So we're excited about that. We're going to keep our mouths shut, though, until we can get a little more foundation under our belts, and then we'll start leaking some of what's going on. So we're excited for this. I'm so happy and grateful I can be in service in this day and time. And yeah, so this month, again, November, and we're going to mix it up a little bit. We have an exciting next Sunday. We have a guest speaker coming in from Columbus. It's our own Blair Reynolds. She is a spiritualist medium and soon to be ordained in the All Spiritual Life Center as Renee Quinn will also, yes, I'm putting you on Front Street, girlfriend, will also be ordained. And these will be our first ordinations under the All Spiritual Life Center title, and it will be legal in all 50 states. So we're excited that we're able to do that. We've still got a few things to finalize. But good morning, Mo. Welcome. You need to watch the first half of this. I didn't say what we were talking about last night. I just kind of tweaked people to let them know that we're getting ready to take things out into the streets, let's just say. Taking it to the streets, that old song there. And I gave you a shout out, Mo. So anyways, good morning. So anyways, like I was saying, we're going to twist things up here a little bit. This month, like I said, everybody else does gratitude. And good morning, Brittany. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Mo. Watch the first half of this later on. I'm sorry. We had a big meeting last night. We had our first little different type of meeting, and a lot of things got brought up, and it was amazing. And we're looking to expand upon that. So that's that little piece of information. That's all you get. You don't get any more until we get more foundation under our belt. So. But we're going to twist things up this month. We're going to talk about why we're grateful. And we're going to talk about the adversary. Ooh, what is the adversary that we all hear about? And that will help us understand gratitude a little bit more. So we're gonna do it differently. So this morning we are going to light our candles and start our invocation. We're gonna change it up a little bit here at All Spiritual Life Center because we know when we get into habits and we're constantly repeating something, meaning gets zapped out of it. It doesn't have as much power. It doesn't have as much meaning. So we like to move things around here to keep us focused, to keep us in conscious awareness of what we're doing. If you're reciting the same prayer over and over every single day, same time, yada da da da, it becomes a habit. It doesn't come from the heart. So that's why we like changing things, although I have lost my All Spiritual Life Center lighter. Oh, Reverend Micah had it. Him was hiding it from me. Okay, so everybody get in that space. Just Breathe. Just breathe in the new year, the new light, going into the dark half of the year. Time changed last night. In that space of silence. Mother, Father, God, Infinite Spirit. That's what is the source of all things, and that all things have their being within. That sacred oneness that we are descended from, and in which is in the depth of our heart and our soul, in our knowing. We breathe in possibility, expansion, growth. And we let go of fear, toxicity, resentment. We light the black candle to burn away all the negativity in our lives, all the negative energies around us, to absorb it and disperse it to where it can harm none ever again. And as this candle burns, so does fear. Burns away. And as the fear burns away, the light enters in. And we light the white candle of the purity that is revealed underneath the fear, of the elimination of the soul, of the breath of the heart. And as these two opposing colors and polarity, by both having a function, they become one flame. For we know that we cannot have light without darkness, and we would not know darkness without light. Both are necessary in the function of growing our soul into the one being that we are. So we don't fear neither. We expand to understand. And that is the goddess. We seek understanding of ourselves first. That gives us understanding of others. And this brings union. For when we understand why the outer world appears the way it does, by understanding our inner, we bring in cohesion. We bring in oneness. And we bring in healing. For as we heal ourselves, we heal the world around us, our communities, the collective consciousness of humanity. So breathe in this healing. And we're going to take our invocation right into our healing service while we're in this space and time. And we are going to ask ourselves, what are we healing from? Why is it that we need healing? What is it in our world, in our life, that we need healing from? Is it false beliefs that we were told how to be, what to be, who to be, what to believe? Is this where we need healing from? I say yes, because this is a collective healing. There have been those who have told us being who we are authentically is an evil thing. And you have to ask yourself, if you're authentic to the soul and you allow that higher self to be what lives you, then it cannot be evil. Those here at All Spiritual Life Center tend to be society's misfits, and we're grateful for that. For we do not conform. We're stronger than that. We do not seek to be part of a herd, but a shepherd among the flock, steering away from the slaughter and into freedom. But we all must go inward and heal ourselves from these collective evils that have been hidden and disguised in sheep's clothing, that are truly evil, because it keeps us from growing. It keeps us caged in fear of our awakening. It keeps us locked away in ourselves, never expressing the true reality of what lies beneath, deep within the soul, the heart, the divine light, the wise darkness that lies within each and every one of us. So today, on this new year of the calendar season, we embrace our totality. We allow the black candle to burn away false beliefs, fears, anxieties, lies, illusions. And we allow the light of the white candle to illuminate us to see clearly. So that we can step consciously our foot upon the path of illumination, of awakening. And we can lean in and trust the divine guidance, that which we call intuition. And for this, we are so very grateful that we have been given polarity so that we can establish discernment, where we can use left and right brain and birth the Holy Child within us. So that we begin to understand that darkness does not mean evil, but light doesn't necessarily mean good either. Where we begin to understand and lift our thoughts and our minds to God consciousness and establish Goddess heart within us and take action on the intuition and the reason, to bring it into one. And we begin to know that our intent is what will deem something good or evil. And when we start enlightening ourselves and unburdening ourselves from the restrictions that have been laid upon us by those who would control and keep us in slavery, then we become sovereign, become conscious, we become powerful, and we walk in that power in serving the Most High. And we say, thank you, thank you, thank you. So let it be. I know we did our healing service a little differently today, but again, if we don't shift it up, it becomes a habit. And habits are made to be broken, especially if they're not good ones. Okay. So our tenets today are going to be a little different, and it's going to tie right into what Reverend Micah will be discussing. He has a very interesting topic. And like I said, don't forget, good morning, Tom. Don't forget that next Sunday we have a guest speaker, Blair Reynolds. So tune in for that. Also, after Blair gets done speaking next Sunday, she is going to be demonstrating flame messages here at our house. So anybody who is on that I'm looking at right now, and y'all know who you are, if you want, and it's going to be child friendly, so kids can come. But if you want, be here by like 1:30 next Sunday, and she will be demonstrating and showing us all how to do flame messages. So that will be fun and something we can experiment with. And if anybody would like to pick it up and then maybe do it at the next event, that's okay too. So I just wanted to put that out there. So anyways, our tenets, I'm not going to tell you what tenets these are today, okay? I'm going to tell you after. So I just want you to stop and think, how do these resonate with you? Okay, so the first one is, and there's 7 of them, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. How's that sound? Number 2, the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail laws and institutions. I can agree with that, right? Hit me up over here. Let me know if you're agreeing with any of this. Come on, guys. Number 3, one's body is inviolable. Did I pronounce that right?
Inviolable.
Inviolable, excuse me, subject to one's own will alone. Number 4, the freedom of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedom of another is to forego one's own. I can get behind that. Belief should, number 5, excuse me. Belief should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's own beliefs. Number 6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused from it. Right? I got you, Brittany. Number 7, Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written, spoken word. Everybody here kind of resonate with all of those? Give me a quick yes, everybody out there. Yes or no? Come on. Let's get a little interactive today. I saw Brittany. Brittany wrote, I know what these are. I know you know what these are. And it all resonates with me. She said she was shocked to learn that they did. Interesting. All right. Well, no one's going to go ahead and say anything, but that's okay. I know you all are listening there. These are the 7 fundamental tenets of the Satanic Temple. The 7 tenets of Satanism. We're told Satanism is an evil thing. And I've read a lot of their doctrine. I agree with some of it. That doesn't make me a Satanist, but I do agree with some of it. I don't agree with all of it. So why can't we not be afraid to delve into what we've been told is horrible and evil and seek some wisdom that we might be able to carry over in our daily lives? Something that can actually, hey, I can align up with that. So we find a common ground. Instead of deeming something as evil because a certain group of institutions decided, because it doesn't fit their dogma, that it's evil. This is fun. I hope you're ready for Reverend Micah, because Reverend Micah is going to take things a little further. And I find it very interesting. Again, don't shut the door. Open up. Explore. There's nothing evil about that. Okay? It's a good thing. You ready, Reverend Micah?
I'm ready.
All right. I will see you guys later. Mwah! I am in a phenomenal mood, so enjoy. Go, Reverend Micah, go.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're ready to learn today, because I am so ready to talk about this subject. And it was a very interesting situation which led us to want to talk about this today. Want us to broach a subject of somewhat on Satanism, but on the concept of Satan itself, which was in the past referred to as Satan. So, before we get it further into it, I want to read you a particular verse from the Holy Bible. So, we find this verse in the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verses 5 through 7. And we'll give a little bit of a breakdown afterwards. Starting at verse 5. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. Verse 6. That they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Finally, we come to verse 7. I form the light and create darkness. Here's the kicker. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Well, hold on a second. Hold on, wait. You're telling me in this verse right here, God, the actual God, says, I make peace and create evil. Wait, hold on a second. Then where's this idea of Satan come from? Where's this idea that there's some entity that's actually responsible for the creation of evil? Because, I mean, if we hear that phrase, God is good all the time, God is good, then how does this, his own words, that he creates evil, fit into all of that? Well, let's break this down a little bit further. We all familiar with the story of Job? You know, the man who was supposedly uprighteous and upstanding and had all these good things and praised God's name and all of that. Well, before these catastrophes happened to him, there was a council called among the heavenly beings. They are referred to as the sons of God. Among these beings that gathered was Satan. When they came forth, they actually had counsel about Job himself. God talking about how much of a righteous person he was. Satan coming in and saying, yeah, I mean, he's pretty all right. But I mean, the reason that he's so good is because he has all these blessings. He's got no reason to want to curse you or want to do evil. So, I mean, you're kind of making it too easy for him. But I bet you, if you took all of those things away, his tune would change that much quicker. And so God then steps in and says, well, everything that he has is actually within your own power to take away. Only don't hurt him. Don't cause him to die. But other than that, do what you will. So then we come to the story where everything happens. He loses everything, thinks about it. All of his family tells him to curse his name. Anyway, we're not going to get into that so far. The key point I really wanted to introduce there is, why would God and Satan have counsel with each other? If Satan is the epitome of evil and is therefore called the enemy, the adversary and whatnot, then why would God allow himself to be in that presence? Here's another definition for the word Satan. We know the one phrase. It means adversary. But here's the other thing. And this comes from the Abrahamic Jewish traditions. It also means accuser. Now, what do we equate with accuser in the world today? We accuse it with, being in court, getting to face your accuser and whatnot. We also think of a prosecutor, someone who brings forth charges against somebody and that they have to answer for in the name of justice. In my studies, when I looked into this verse and looked into the tradition of Satan himself, I found that Satan is actually an agent subordinate to God. He is a part of those sons. He is taking the place of the prosecutor in the heavenly court, because he will bring forth mankind so that they can face the court system, as it were, and have all of their actions laid out before them, and they can see how much of a righteous person they were. What does this all mean exactly? That you supposedly have a great being that creates good and creates evil? Where did this idea come from that they then became dualistic? There's just this one that encompasses all the good, and then this one which encompasses all the bad, but they do not mix. There's a common saying that we actually have in recovery. Either God is everything or God is nothing. So in that context, you can't have one God that is just responsible for everything else and another one that is separate from him, detached, not combined or not, merged in any kind of way. But if God is everything, then there can be nothing outside of him. So therefore, what we would term as evil also exists in there. So where did this dichotomy come from of having one force opposing another? And if in the Abrahamic religions where Christianity and Islam come from, where did this split come from? I'll tell you. There was a time period between the writing of the Old Testament and the writing of the New Testament. It was called the intertestamental period. And this took place in the before Common Era, before coming into the Common Era itself, what we term as BC and AD. So between about 550 BC to 70 AD is the intertestamental period. You know what developed in between that time? A relatively obscure religion called Zoroastrianism. Now here's a key thing about Zoroastrianism. It supposed the idea and proposed Zarathustra, the prophet himself who created it, that there was a good spirit, an overall supreme being called Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord. From Ahura Mazda, there were two spirits, one called the Spentaminyu, which encompassed all of those good and righteous and compassionate qualities, and then one called Angaraminyu, which encompassed all of the destructive properties of the one being. It was responsible for things like death, the decay, that would lead to the rebirth from the beings Spentaminyu. Now, it originally existed in a dualistic concept. They were separate beings. They could not coincide together. Whereas in Abrahamic religion, they did reside under that one being. When Zoroastrian influence left the Middle Eastern area and started intersecting with Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, this idea came about that therefore Satan, the adversary, must be a being that stands apart from God. But is it so? If we go back to this verse right here, where it's being laid out completely, that the one supreme being is responsible for good and for evil, That means that there is nothing that we can blame that is separate from that which gave you life. So what does this mean exactly? How are we bringing this into the human condition? It means that everything that we have done in our life, whether it be for good or whether it be for evil, we cannot blame an external force for causing it to happen. I can't go into a gas station, decide to rob it, and then go and then possibly, if I get arrested, go before the judge and say, "Judge, it wasn't my fault. The devil made me do it." That ain't gonna fly, and it shouldn't. And after what we learned about in the tenets of the Satanic Temple itself, they actually encourage personal responsibility. They encourage you to look at all of your actions and decide whether they were born out of compassion or whether they were born out of anger. So, how does this all come together? Let me tell you, show you another book. It's called Exorcising the Tree of Evil by William G. Gray. I highly recommend this book. I haven't gotten into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the book itself, because Reverend Michelle has been reading it. The information coming from her on it has been great. I did have a chance to read the foreword of the book, though, and there's a certain passage that I want to read to you all. All right. This takes place on page 6. So looking at the basics, we see that there is only one supreme being, creative consciousness, life force, or whatever you like to call God, providing that your own and everyone else's genuine raison d'être is understood by that term. Now that has to be an energy. And energy implies a motion or exchange of force from one extremity to the other of the same field. In other words, polarity or opposites in the sense of complementaries, as in the case of any force phenomenon. To carry or extend the concept a shade further, we have the principles of good and evil, personified as God and Satan. If we postulate our concept of God as beneficence personified, we necessarily imply Satan as malevolence personified. But we should see not two beings, but one, expressed as alternative types of the same energy, much as electricity is an active flow of particles between positive and negative polarities. It goes on further to describe in here, and I'll pick it up right here, where he actually mentioned that Isaiah 45. It is purely a question of dealing with the devil correctly in a way he should be dealt with. No more than that. What it all boils down to is, what do we want to become? Utterances and words coming out from the mind and mouth of God, or plain excreta out of Satan's behind? If God is the being of which we all are parts as living creatures, and we are evolving through it, we can only exit from its mouth or its hindquarters. So if you think of the one supreme being as being like the physical body of the universe itself, all that is the nourishment we take in through the mouth and we take in through the mind. All that is the waste that is no longer necessary for creation, it comes out the back. What you see here is the good. What you see here is what we call the evil. But here's an important part of your life, and I'm going to give you all an example. When I was going through recovery myself, I first looked back at my past. I looked at all of my broken relationships, all of my friends, people I was, partners with, and I would look at how things would end there, and I'd quickly try to find where they were at the fault. It wasn't my fault that this ended. It was their fault. If she had only done this, if he had only done this, then our relationship would have been so much better. Our friendship would have been much deeper than what it was. When I actually got into the deep recovery aspect of looking at all of my actions, I had to come to one major thing. No matter what external influence came upon me, no matter what I read, no matter what I heard, it was always my choice to take that action upon the person, whatever it was. So when I created, pardon my French, when I created a lot of shit, I had to look at it. I could have been like the child that says, no, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to have to face that. I don't want to have to see what I've created. But if I wanted to actually be healthy in mind, body, spirit, and in my heart and in my emotions, I had to take a deep look at it, because you can learn a lot from your waste. You know, and you can learn about what is good from what you take in as nourishment. And then what you expel from yourself, you can take a look at it and learn about yourself too. Because when we go through that shadow work of getting in recovery, getting ourselves clean, or if we're not in, in that kind of active addiction of substance abuse or whatnot, we can still do the shadow work. Because when we do, for me personally, I experienced a bout of illness. It was, a lot of like cold systems. I had a lot of frequent evacuations because things were being moved out of me. All of the evil that I had created for myself and contained within me, I had to move it out because I was taking in new nourishment and new knowledge. So therefore, this waste could not occupy that space. By doing so, it gave me the opportunity to take a look at what I had created and go, I don't want to create that anymore. I'm going to use this as an example and as a guidepost of how not to create this any further. Because in order to be a balanced being, you must take a look at both what you create that we call good and what you have created that we call evil. It's why we're not really a church that is all light and love and fluffy goodness. We want to, ignore all the bad that happens. We can't. We cannot love and treat life in slices like that. We must take it in as the whole, or else we're not getting the complete truth. There is truth that you can see from the good and from the evil. I mean, and even if most doctors would tell you that there's a lot that you can learn from looking at your stool being, how healthy you are compared to what you're taking in and what you need to change, then why can't we treat spirituality like that too? Why can't we take a look? Why can't we look at everything that we've done and say, I'm not going to judge this as whether I'm an awful person for doing it or I'm just a great person from doing it. I am a person wanting to be whole and at one-ment. And in order to do that, I must see my creative tendencies and I must see my destructive properties as well. Here's another example for that. Magnets. It has a positive and a negative end, just like electricity does. Human beings are like magnets. It's how we activate the law of attraction. We want to draw those things to us. We want to draw the good things to us. And then when we see all the crap, as it were, being drawn to us, we go, why did I get this? But in order for a magnet to be functionable, in order for it to do its purpose, you cannot force a positive and a positive together, just like you can't force a negative and a negative together. You would have to hold it there, all this effort, but ultimately they repel. When the positive charge is introduced to the negative charge, there cannot be separation. They are whole. They are at one because they understand all of their qualities. In order for me to have been well after going through that recovery step process, I had to understand both what I considered my positive and what I considered my negative, because when they were both in cohesion together, the best results were always created. As long as I don't look at myself and say, that part of me, I don't want to, I'm going to shove it away. That's not really me. That's not really part of my makeup. Well, Isaiah 45 begs to differ, because if he can create that good and make that peace and that evil, then therefore we'd have to think about that supreme being as being outside that realm of good and evil. It understands those aspects. And we see those aspects in various other religions by many other names, but they are always two halves of the one whole. And they have a necessary part. Evil itself, evil itself is necessary to a degree. Because if we were faced with only all that was what we deemed good, why would we be encouraged to do anything else? Why would we be encouraged to improve? When we have that polar opposite there to view, we then understand this aspect more intrinsically. And by understanding this aspect more intrinsically, we understand this one. And that's how they combine and become whole. You have to understand all of your halves, folks. And you have to understand that the one being is truly everything. You can't just give it that one or two kind of qualities and characteristics that you deem are okay, and then try to sack the rest of it onto something else you don't want to look at. They're all agents of that one being. And when we can start looking at them in a form of appreciation to teach us more self-knowledge about us and how we can become more at one and more cohesive with all of our aspects, then that's how we ascend into that infinite. That's how we go home. We have to take it all together. Slices will not work. It must all be brought home. Take those opportunities in your own life, to, if you're in recovery or if you're not in recovery. Take a look at all that you have created, and don't be judgmental about it either. If you can separate for just a moment when you're in it as deeming it, well, this was just totally evil, so that must make me just the worst kind of person ever. You are going through a human condition like every one of us, like I am and like I was in ways, in order to be healed, to be at one. Like the Supreme Being, our very model itself wants us to realize that part of ourselves. It wants us to return home. So why don't we do so? With all of the materials and maps and knowledge that we can accumulate and bring into that, instead of just deeming something as evil. Like many people would have deemed these tenets as evil just because of where they came from. But when you listen to them, don't they make sense? Give it a shot. Give it a chance. Bury your preconceived notions. Let those become the excrement that you waste out so that you can have true knowledge instead. I hope that this has been beneficial for you. Learning this process through and thinking about it throughout this week has been very eye-opening for me in understanding the universe as a whole and the necessity of all of its aspects, how they make a perfect system. Anything that you'd like to add, Reverend Michelle?
Actually, yeah, I would like to bring up that as we've noticed in so many of the mainstream traditions that we're all very much accustomed and have, most of us have had some exposure to, you have to ask and you have to question and you have to think, then if the Supreme Being is all, there's no separation. God is everything or God is nothing. Therefore, you don't get to pick and choose what is and what is not. Okay? This is where you can see where power structures, institutions have tried to keep us in a slave mind thinking because they have removed the divine feminine from their teachings and deemed her evil, the temptress, the one who took Adam off his path. When actually, if you really think about it, in so many cultures, when they use the snake has always been deemed wisdom. And wisdom handed Eve the knowledge, and she shared knowledge with Adam. Therefore, if you really want to look at it in truth, Eve was the redeemer of Adam. We're going to discuss more about the divine feminine this month too. I hope you have an amazing week. We look forward to seeing you next weekend. Again, everybody who's on the sidebar there, next Sunday between 1 and 1:30, we are going to be doing flame messages with Blair Reynolds. She's going to come up and demonstrate them with us. And we've got more to discuss about our little thing we were talking about last night, Mo and Brittany. I've had some things that I've come up with that I really want to talk with you. I really want to move forward with this. This is what the community needs. And I All Spiritual Life Center is 110% behind it. And even if we don't have a brick and mortar, we can still do this because this is a necessary project that I'd like to have unfold, which it will, but I have total faith in the creative forces within us because we are powerful beings free in our minds. And by freeing our minds, we allow that divine force and allow ourselves to be the instruments of that divine force. So I'm excited for that. I hope you all have a blessed week. Y'all get in contact with me. Bye.
Bye. Y'all have a great week. Peace be with you.